Hi, I'm Dave Moyle, County Commissioner, District 4, right here in Delta County, and I wanted to answer some questions that people had sent in and talk to you about issues that you're concerned about right here in Delta County. So welcome, and let me go to work for you.
All right. Are you ready for our first question?
I've got the answers.
Okay. What are your thoughts on making county commissioner elections nonpartisan in the future?
I think the people that say that politics at the county level they should not be partisan. I think they're Democrats, that they know that they're heading into a pounding in November because of the anger that's around the country and the county because of inflation, the cost of gas, the cost of food, the cost of everything. And whenever somebody says it shouldn't be a partisan issue, but they were high up in the party that they were in and they just left the party, you stand for what you stand for. You stand proud for it, and you stand strong for it. And if somebody's going to turn tail and run just to try to curry some votes, what are they going to do if they get in office? So I stand for being a Republican. Stand for being an American first, but then I'm a Republican. And I'm not going to run from how I feel because I vote the way I vote. And I think you've seen that over the last 12 years. I stand by every vote I have made in 12 years of service. People that bring nothing to the table other than their mouth and some negativity are going to snake oil themselves into any kind of vote they can get. So I stand for Democrats being accountable for what they've done. And I stand for Republicans or libertarians being accountable for what they've done. It's what's honesty is going to serve you the best.
Thanks.
Oh, my pleasure.
What do you see as the main challenge facing the county in the next 2 years, and how do you believe we can resolve them?
Well, finances with out-of-control inflation and Washington, D.C. printing money like a drunken sailor, that's huge. Lansing, of course, will establish laws that they don't have to follow. We can't print money or make laws in Delta County, so we have to live within our means. I tell you what, I don't want to reach into your pocket and ask for money. That's a tax increase. You pay enough taxes. As a county commissioner, a public servant, it is our fiduciary obligation basically to live within the means, and we need to find ways to bring revenue streams into the county. So making sure that we move the county in the right direction without knocking on the door and saying, hey, we need bond language approved because we're going to have to ask you for more money because we're not responsible tax spenders. That's tainted garbage, okay? We have to run the county like a business is run. You don't dip into the day-to-day operations out of your savings account because then you run out of your money, and then you have to go to your neighbor's house and say, hey, Frank, I need some money. That's called socialism. The problem with that is eventually you run out of other people's money. And so the county's heading in a good direction right now because we've had commissions in the past 12 years who have been very serious about thinking outside the box and putting your needs as a citizen in front of their egos as commissioners. And so it's moving the county in the right direction and being fiscally conservative and making sure that we need to take care of our citizens, provide good services, and understand that people are taxed to death right now.
Thanks. How do you see a method to resolve disagreements on the board?
A method to resolve any disagreement can come by empathic listening. I don't agree with everybody I meet in life, but I mean, if you listen, sincerely listen, and there is a two-way level of communications where they listen to me, I listen to them, that's fine. I'm perfectly capable of working across the aisle with any American who respects the Constitution as the bedrock of our organizational laws. I'll work with anybody for that. I'm not willing to work with democratic socialists who want to defund police. No way at all. So I've disagreed with a lot of conservatives and other commissioners on the board constantly. You have to be able to listen and in some cases compromise because nobody gets everything they want. And so you put the needs of the people ahead of your ego and your desires.
Okay. What would the method be that you would use to resolve, on a board you're going to have opposing viewpoints. How do you see resolving those?
The first thing you do is you look at what you have in common and where you can come together. And this comes by listening. And then you look at the issues of contention. Where are the problems? I think the solar utility ordinance proposed by the Planning Commission was one of them. And the bedrock for everything that I choose to do is our Constitution. So if resolving an argument is going to fly in the face of the Constitution, I'm not in favor of resolving that argument. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I can find other commissioners who are heading in the same direction that I am, especially if we are serving the public and the public's needs through constitutional means, and see what we can build in from there. But I'm more than willing to give on issues under disagreements, but you need to be heading in the same direction on core values of the Constitution, individual liberties, property rights, and keeping the county financially solvent. And even if we have some disagreements as to how to do that, that's fine. But if people can't come together on those 4 core issues, my question would be why? Why can't you support the Constitution? And so I think it's you can tell if someone's going to listen or if they're going to be pig-headed in an argument. Differences are a good thing. I learned that in the martial arts after 40 years of study. People don't have to do the same kind of martial art that I do. So if somebody's got a difference in something, you can learn from that and you can expand from that. But if you want to try to shut down law enforcement or the Constitution, that's not going to happen as long as I'm on that board. I promise you.
Thanks. Boy, here's a hard one. Why should I vote for you?
Because of my blonde, wavy hair. No, I think that, in the past 12 years, I have been painstakingly honest. I defend every vote that I made. I'm the only commissioner that gives out his phone number at the meetings on a regular basis. That tells me that I want to hear from people, even when I disagree with them. And so look at what I've done, but not vote for me based on what I've done. What I'm asking for your vote on is because I want to protect things like upset. My opponent has talked about possibly defunding upset, and over my rotting corpse, the vast majority of drugs in Delta County account for most of our crime. And so upset does a lot for prevention and a lot to stop distribution, but it works in the schools and in the community to help our kids. You talk about streets being safe, it's got to be streets without drugs. There is no way that our county could go by itself to try to fund our own, drug enforcement agency. That's insanity, because drugs are beaten at a regional level. If we get a handle on things in Delta County against drugs, and our friends across the Schoolcraft border or in Dickinson County don't have the same success, it's just going to bleed back into our county. So you have to use your resources on a regional basis to fund the drug awareness and prevention effort. So my stance on upset couldn't be more different than my opponent's. My philosophy on taxes is I need to stay, and the county needs to stay, out of your pocket. Your money's best spent by you. I've ran a business on Escanabas Main Street for 25 years. I know what it's like to struggle to try to make things work and keep things going. And I have worked across the aisle because I used to be a Democrat. I don't like the direction the party's heading now nationally. I can't identify with it. But I'm willing to work with anybody, and I don't care if they're from the Mars Party or the Jupiter Party, as long as the bedrock of their beliefs is the Constitution of the United States. That's something I hold very sacred, and I take my oath of office very seriously.
Oh, boy, working along those same line, though. How do we handle inflation?
Well, you stop inflation by quit printing money. Well, we have no control over that. So how the county handles inflation, we don't look at you and say, you need to be a responsible taxpayer. And, and I suggest we raise our property taxes to balance the budget. That's the approach of my opponent. It's dead on arrival at a county because we're not putting language for it on a ballot that says we need X more money to help us balance the budget. Our fiduciary obligation is to balance the budget, live within our means. It's going to get tough because the dollar is going to do less, so you're going to have to do more with less. So you think outside the box. You bring in manufacturing, you bring in tourism, expanding our revenue streams. That's how a county increases its coffers, not by raising taxes on people who are struggling to survive. That's insane. So we have already begun activities as a commission 12 years ago, having come through the most difficult times since the Great Depression in 2008, 2010, after the Lehman Brothers crash. We thought outside the box. We looked ahead. Our county is poised to do good things because we've had conservative commissions there. There were some conservative Democrats who served in the past. I was proud to serve with them. But you can't have some happy-go-lucky power drunk person telling you that your taxes needs to be raised, or the next thing you know, they're going to be raised. So we live within our means, and we take care of each other by bringing in potential opportunity. And I'll talk more about what I'd like to see done with the fairgrounds and what I'd like to see done with some of the property that the county has purchased on behalf of its citizens.
Thanks. Excuse me. You talked about manufacturing. How do we get manufacturing here? How do we get more in?
First of all, it's a constant effort. Why would manufacturing come to Delta County? To give us jobs because we're so wonderful? No. There's a word called profit. That's what drives the open system of capitalism. People will come to this community to open up in our rent zones if they can make a profit. The first thing that President Trump did when he was in office is knock down the corporate tax rate to 20%. The economy went bonkers. We need to be aggressive in offering targeted tax breaks to corporations. We also, on the second-hand approach there, they take a look and see the quality of life in our county. We have a state-of-the-art jail. We don't let felons out because of overcrowding. We have upset protecting our streets. We are enticing people in constantly. We have to be aggressive with this. And I think it's done on a day-to-day basis. And it's not all going to happen at once. It's going to take a period of years to happen. We lost people in our last census, the 2020 census. Pretty much of an unstated goal of mine is to make those people up and more in the 2030 census. It's going to be a daily grind. It's going to be very difficult, but you look at the minutia when you are bringing corporations in and you want to increase manufacturing. We have an outstanding and unparalleled ability in forest products manufacturing. Deepwater port, we have rail, we have an airport, we have Marinette Marine to the south of us, and activities throughout the Upper Peninsula that are spurred by our outstanding wilderness and natural resources. So it's going to be a daily grind. You resource with people, the Economic Development Alliance, resourcing with other it's kind of like the way you attack the drug issue, a regional thing. You don't kind of isolate yourself off. You work with the resources you have, other counties, and within the region. We have a phenomenal opportunity with tourism here, and I think we can bring manufacturing and tourism in at a higher level and enjoy the benefits of that.
Thanks. You took me, this question actually takes us to another question. The airport, there's talk, I believe your opponent mentioned that one of her goals is to expand the airport.
Well, if you build it, they will come. We could make an 8-lane highway of South Lincoln Road. It'd look lovely. Would it move more traffic? If you have the need for an expansion of the airport, it will be based on the fact that the airline industry, which is a profit-based industry, says, hey, we have to get more flights or we have to get another carrier into Delta County. You can't spend millions in a land. Look at our airport and what surrounds our airport wetlands. What are you going to do with the EPA and the Army Corps of Engineers and the state, the DNR? You can't put a runway over a wetland. That's not going to happen. So we have limited ability as to what we can do expanding our airport, but we can make the airport nicer, and the way we can expand it in some ways will come as a result of need. If an airline says, hey, there's potential for profit in Delta County, we need to add flights, it's going to be only because that we have more people living in this area. There's more commerce in this area. People need to fly in, fly out. You expand the airport. It's like giving me a comb. I mean, what the hell is that? There's no potential for that. You have to make the need first, and then capitalism and a free market will take care of the rest.
Thanks. There's a pretty personal one here. How much does the commissioner make?
Oh, a lot. As you can see, no, they don't make much at all. I think we get, after taxes, like $600 a month. People go into this line of work for two reasons. One is to be somebody or to do something. Now, we make more than the city council does, but I mean, it depends on what you do. You make your paycheck once a month. And then some people like to add on to their retirement and their income by using the per diem system to go to these advisory board meetings and committees. Some commissioners, $1,200, $1,500 a month, they go to so many meetings. I'm not going to go to a meeting to send you a bill, okay? Not when I get on the phone or go online to Nextcloud and find out exactly what happened at an advisory board meeting, and an advisory board that exists to give me information as a commissioner. But when I have opponents throughout the years who don't bring anything to the table, they want to make hay any way they can, and they'll say, Moyle missed a meeting. Yeah, Moyle will miss a meeting. I've missed meetings in 12 years. Moyle has never gone on uninformed. So every vote that I've cast comes as a result of staying informed. And so I know a commissioner that bills between $12,000 and $15,000 a year in per diem. Okay, I asked to be here. Every commission on the board, commissioner, all 5 of us, asked to be there, which means that we know that we have a job to do. I don't have a problem giving somebody gas mileage if they've got to go to a meeting and they live out in the forests. But I mean, if you have 10 townships, you go to 10 separate township meetings and sit and do nothing. What's the point of that? The township supervisor calls and says, hey, Commissioner, I need you here. Yeah, you got to go. Charge your gas mileage. If you have to, charge your per diem. But one former commissioner watched the UP Christmas tree, or the state Christmas tree for Lansing, get cut down in Houghton. You, the taxpayer, got billed for mileage from this area to Houghton to return and the per diem of the day. So it cost the taxpayers close to $300 to have him watch a tree get cut down. That's abuse of the system. You don't get paid to go into work or to go home from work. Why should we get a sweet deal if we work for you? So what I intend on doing is severely limiting the abuse of per diem or getting rid of it altogether. So a commissioner should make his or her monthly wage. And what I do is I bill the county less than any other commissioner in the history of my service, and I can prove that, and I'm proud of that. I guess, how honest do you want to be? That would be the way I answer the question.
That works. What is the skill set you need to make a good commissioner?
Everything you learned to serve in the county commission, you learned in kindergarten. Okay, the golden rule helps. Empathic listening helps. In my opinion, a respect of God and country is essential, because if you can't respect God or country, you have no bloody business on the commission. Understand that you won't win every conflict and that you have to compromise, but the people of Delta County, their needs come first. So if you're an egotist or a narcissist, you're a walking liability to Delta County. Listening, empathic listening is extremely important. Serving blind and visually impaired people for 25 years and teaching somebody who's non-sighted how to be an independent traveler and have a meaningful life requires listening and meeting them at their level of need. That's a huge skill. I don't think you need any level of classes. Sure, you can sit on different boards and claim different things, but how you interact with people and understanding that you are a part of something way bigger than you are as an individual is critical. And that's been the focus of my service.
Thanks. Well, I don't know who called this one in. Let me see if we can stumble through this. Do you have plans for anything involving the nature aspect of Delta County?
Our natural resources is one of our greatest resources. So yes, if you take a look at the condition of the parks now in 2022 compared to when I first got elected in 2010, apples to oranges. I mean, the conservation district took a sow's ear and turned it into a silk purse. Our parks are a destination. That means it brings much needed tourism dollars into the area for our restaurants, our hotels. And we're going to continue on that aspect. We're going to continue going with that. Right now we're in negotiations with the DNR regarding O.B. Fuller Park, and we will create some space out there for day use. But Delta County has 209 miles of freshwater shoreline, being number 2 in the nation on freshwater shoreline. So my guess is you can find a picnic table to look out at the beauty of Lake Michigan, even if it's not at O.B. Fuller Park. What you had there is you had a couple of people wanting to get into politics who wanted to make hay out of O.B. Fuller Park. And prior to the Conservation District taking that park over, it was a sand pit and a screaming liability to this county. And we are not equipped out there to let people just swim out there at all hours of the day or night. If you open that, and we will open it up to day use, but there's going to come a price for this because we have to have, restrooms out there that will facilitate the amount of people needed for day use. But you don't have a lot of people screaming for day use. You got a couple folks who are trying to make this into a political issue. Luckily, the voters have seen through this, and they understand that we have moved the parks in the right direction. And we will continue to expand on our ability to use our natural resources to the benefit of the citizens of Delta County. Whether that's expanded trails or doing more for our parks, I don't know. But you need commissioners in there who understand that natural resources and the beauty of our wildlife and our forestry areas is critical to our future infrastructure. I've served on 6 commissions that have been very sensitive to that. And my plan is, with your support, to serve on a 7th.
Okay. The budget is done annually, correct?
It is.
Okay. That's what I thought. How do you maintain a balanced budget?
You maintain a balanced budget, and I've presided over 12 of them. Our fiscal year starts October 1. You maintain a balanced budget by living within your means. Not once in 12 years have I looked at the citizens and said, we can't balance the budget. We're going to have to cut these services unless you give us more money. You'd have to send a tax, or you'd have to send language out to a ballot measure at the county level. City fathers just jacked your property taxes up 2.6% without really getting you a chance to say yay or nay. They had a hearing, but that doesn't really matter. You live within your means. It's like running a business or a home. If you dip into your savings to run the day-to-day operations, you're going to have a problem. And quite frankly, I don't think anyone belongs serving on a board who would throw their hands up in the air and say, we can't balance the budget. You have to, bail us out. We asked to be here. That means we owe you our fiduciary best to make sure that we live within our means. How do you expand your means? Well, do you sit and you criticize other people who disagree with you? Well, I think the Democrats are masters of that. But that's not going to help the people of Delta County. What I would like to do is bring additional manufacturing. You're going to get sick of hearing that from me. You bring manufacturing in, you increase your tourism. That expands your revenue base. Okay, you provide services. That's why you pay taxes. I pay taxes for services. Not because we owe the government anything. Smaller government, better government, yep. We owe you our 100% best effort to make sure that we are not dipping into your pocket constantly because you're getting the heck beaten out of you with inflation. I understand this. So it's going to be a cold day in hell before I look at you and say, I think that we need to ask you for more money. I need to find ways to increase our revenue base. That's what a county commissioner does, unless they're ego-driven and a narcissist, and I am neither.
Thanks. Law enforcement in Delta County is the total question.
Well, yes, there is law enforcement in this county. No, you got to back your blue. That includes backing your brown. It's the same thing. That has always been a plank of my platform, a plank of my campaign, the major part of the platform. You have to back your blue. In 2020, this country watched American citizens lit on fire and calls from idiots to defund police. Not when I'm on that commission. Our cops run to what we run from. They keep our streets and our kids safe. They need our support. They have to be funded and equipped. And beyond that, they need to know that we got their back. Some talk from some communities, and again, your Democrat Congress, voting to strip police of their qualified immunity. Strip politicians of their qualified immunity and see what happens. We need to support our police mentally, physically, spiritually in some cases. That upset, okay? We are the fiduciary to upset in Delta County. We spend more than any other county. And I like it that way because we're not having a coffee social with them. They are going after drug dealers on our streets, educating our children in our schools, educating our communities in our community about the dangers of what narcotics, meth, heroin, methadone, you name it, is doing to this community. And so you have to back the blue in order for us to maintain a quality of life. That doesn't mean it's a carte blanche. You hold the blue accountable. We have done that. We've got body cams now for our officers at the county level, which that footage gets funneled into a computer bank at the prosecutor's office. We are maintaining accountability for our police, but we have to maintain their training, their support, and their funding. And I would like to see us start paying our corrections community more, because we go through a corrections officer, the average shelf life is about 5 years. And so the only way we're going to really keep them around longer is to increase their pay. But even then, you run the risk of them deciding they've had enough because of how difficult the job is. So as long as I'm on the commission and as long as I'm breathing, I will always do my best to make sure that we back our blue. And that means more than putting a sign in the yard and giving somebody a cupcake.
All right. Your opponent says we need to raise taxes, and you say we don't. What's going on there?
Well, there's a difference in philosophy. What you're talking about is on May the 5th of 2022, at a city council meeting, my opponent at 47 minutes into that meeting said, we need to raise taxes. No one wants to hear it, but it must be done. I've got videos of it. And I'm saying over my rotting corpse. And since I don't want to be a rotting corpse anytime soon, I have no desire to raise taxes. When you look at a budget, you have to prepare for that budget. I think what the city council did was they said, well, if we can't raise taxes, we're going to have to shut down the library, a sacred cow, and we can't get new fire doors for the police station. That's another sacred cow because it's law enforcement. Did you really try to increase your revenue streams, ma'am, before you went to the voters of Delta County and dug in their pocket, the voters who are on fixed incomes and struggling to pay property taxes to begin with, the people who've lived all their life and worked all their lives in this county? You're going to tax them right out of their homes that their kids grew up in? No, you're not doing that at the county level. As long as I'm there, I will kick, scream, and fight to make sure that we do not stick our fingers into your pocket. That's your money. You should spend it the way you want to. The problem with socialism is eventually, as Maggie Thatcher said, you're going to run out of other people's money. We have enough money coming in, and if we need more, what do? Here's again, manufacturing and tourism. You know, people saying that and rolling their eyes. But that is a way for government to stay out of your pocket, at least at the county level. Sorry, I get fired up about that because people are suffering.
You're a political candidate. You're supposed to get fired up.
I'm fired.
How does the advisory committee system, who decides what advisory committees there are to be and how do they actually
Well,
work?
the committees exist by need. The county board would say, okay, we have a airport advisory, that advises the county board on what's going on at the airport. You've got your buildings and ground committee. You've got your personnel committee. You got your finance. You have tons of advisory board committees. The system of per diem as it relates to advisory board committees, that's a different animal, but the committees exist in an advisory capacity to give the full board information. The board votes on the information, and those committees are a way to get public input, for the board. The zoning planning committee will take information in, give it to the full board. The board will vote on an issue and establish ordinance or policy. And I have no problem. I love the people that support these committees because they're helping the board do its job. The people elected 5 commissioners to vote for them on their behalf. So I don't believe that an advisory committee belongs making decisions for the people because you have to go through the test of being elected by the people to represent them with your vote. That makes the people my boss. Okay. And so, again, I've said this. Because I want to be a commissioner, I asked for your vote to be a commissioner. Why should I get IRS mileage and per diem to do my job going to and from? Okay, I get my monthly paycheck, and then I'm not going to supplement my income $1,200, $1,400 a month going to these meetings so I can send you a bill and collect some money at the end. That is garbage. And I intend on putting an end to that if you send me back. I haven't said anything yet because I've been the lowest billing commissioner to the county in 12 years. But in my opinion, that per diem system's abused and you're paying the bill. Give me a hand in putting an end to it, please. Unless you can find a way to get someone to give you IRS mileage to go to and from work.
Follow up to that. How do I get on it?
People, you can apply, go to City Hall, and you can see, not City Hall, what the hell's wrong with me? Go to the county. Go to City Hall. Go to the county building, and on the second floor, you can ask to see a list of openings for advisory committees that you can serve on. And there are numerous. I mean, there's a community action, CAA, HRA advisory board. There's UPCAP. There are a couple dozen committees. You can apply to get on these committees. The full board will, when there's an opening, will consider your application. And we like to apply. We like people to serve in the committee where they have skin in the game. So let's say if we have an airport advisory opening in my district, we try to find an applicant from my district as opposed to appointing someone from Garden. But, we take a look at every application, and we'd love to have people volunteer their time. And I think it's a great way to potentially, getting into public service.
All right. Only got a couple more here. What can Dave Moyle do for the county that nobody, or that, all right. What can Dave Moyle do for the county that nobody else can or you can do better?
I'm not going to talk about the strengths and weaknesses of my opponent, but I will tell you what my strengths are. I listen. I'm not ego-driven, and the Constitution is the focus of my service. I take that very seriously. We are taking oath of office to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States and the state of Michigan. We don't take an oath of office to act like Emily Post. But I tell you, if I can like somebody and they can like me in the process of my service, great. Even if they don't like me in the process of my service, I will do my best to respect them. The fact that I had Delta County, and I was the driving force to make Delta County the Second Amendment sanctuary county, is one of the major things. What I can and will do for you is defend that Constitution with my last breath at the county level. My opponent spoke against our sanctuary motion, saying that it would cast our county in a bad light. There are more men and women in Delta County with concealed pistol permits per capita than any other county in the state of Michigan. That tells me that the men and women of Delta County understand freedom, the price of freedom, the respect of security and protecting their families. We're not swaggering around like drunken cowboys shooting out lights. You don't even know when people are armed unless they're open carrying. That's a totally separate issue. But that's just the Second Amendment, one of the smaller parts of the Bill of Rights. Your First Amendment offers 5 freedoms or 5 rights. That's constantly under attack by the left. And so I think honesty, you know where I'm heading. I've switched parties. There's been no problem with that. I left the Democratic Party when I felt it left me. Now, as a Republican, I'm not in lockstep with the party either. I have had some issues with some conservatives locally. I'm an American first. I'm a conservative second. And I will work with other Americans, be they conservative, liberal, or whatever, non-politically affiliated, for the benefit of the voters of Delta County. That's what I will do, and that's what I have done. And if you look at the counties where is now compared to 2010, huge difference. We had just come through the Lehman Brothers collapse, and we were in a bad time financially. Did we come to you and say, you need to be good taxpayers and we need to raise your rates? No, we didn't. We thought outside the box. We acquired 1,400 of acres in Garden for less than $40,000 so we can do managed cuts on those acres in the future, bringing hundreds of thousands of dollars into the county's coffers so we don't have to come into your pocket and try to get money from you. We're already doing that. We purchased 500 solar panels at the airport's utility farm, 5.5% interest on that investment, always trying to entice manufacturing to come in. We have increased tourism in Delta County. Look at the condition of our parks. They are a destination. And I have every intention on using one of the jewels in Delta County's crown, which is the UP State Fairgrounds, to entice tourism. You realize that Delta County is the sporting capital and life of the world, not of of the world. How about a Knife Heritage Weekend where you have some of the biggest names in the business right here in Delta County making us a destination? People come in so they can have a tour of the Marbles facility, buy a huge name in this business, have a knife show where these guys are there and talking with people, answering their questions. A Knife Heritage Weekend, I believe, would bring in hundreds at first and if not more people later. That's just one idea. You look at the fairgrounds, it's an incredible resource. Snowmobiling so is winter, a way of life in the Upper Peninsula. How about an expanded snowmobile racing offering, whether it's drag racing or track racing right at the county fairgrounds? It's a great family activity, and we would attract people here as a destination. In the winter, they probably wouldn't want to camp, so our hotels would get the boost, our restaurants get the boost, gas stations get the boost, and we are making the county a destination. Oshkosh and the fly-in there with the EAA Air Show, that makes the busiest airport in the world in the summer. Well, we're not Oshkosh, but we could do a model airplane fly-in at the county fairgrounds, and you would have enthusiasts from all over the country coming here. We can just sit and whine and wait for people to come and save us, or tax you more, which is foolishness and crazy as far as I'm concerned. Or we can chart our own destiny and take advantage of the resources that we have here on your behalf, making the county a better place to live for all of us. That's what I'm for. A heritage weekend or a vintage weekend where you could cruise Delta County, or classic cars could cruise Delta County using the fairgrounds to do a 60s style drive-in theater, and you could have a sock hop at the Ruth Butler. But all of this stuff is happening to some degree, but we could expand on that and bring it in. And these are just a couple of ideas. You want to talk about outside the box? How about reindeer racing at the county fairgrounds in the winter? They do that over in Norway, and it's a huge deal. I think people might laugh at that, but it's crazy up until it starts becoming profitable and people notice the benefit. Then it becomes the norm. And then maybe it's not such a harebrained idea after all. We can control our destiny if we have the right people in leadership that understand that money doesn't grow on the money tree. It comes from your pocket, and it's best when it's spent by you. And that's why I'm asking for your vote on November the 8th. It is critical, because if you get the wrong kind of commissioners in there who believe that's a position of power, you're going to pay the price in the long run. And I have never viewed it as a position of power. The power comes through service, and that's to the taxpayers and the people of the county. I appreciate your time.
Well, I promised 2 more questions. You answered the second one, so
Okay.
I get to ask one.
Oh, very good.
Chocolate or vanilla?
I'm not a vanilla guy. So I guess if I had vanilla, I'd spice it up so it wouldn't really be vanilla. How about both?
That works.
Just take a scoop of both.
All right, Dave, thanks. Let me give you a few minutes, or heck, as long as you want.
We haven't gone door to door this year because of COVID cases in Delta County being on the rise, and we have to respect your medical needs and concerns. Normally, I'd have been banging on your door saying, "Hi, Dave Moyle, County Commissioner. Got any questions? Sure would love your vote on November the 8th, sorry." And I'd give you a little Pell pen or an American flag or something. We have no ground crew for that this year because people have concerns about COVID, which is on the rise. I wanted to do it, but I tell you what, you call 906-235-8427. I'll talk with you at any length of time you want to, and I'll answer your questions about the county. People are angry right now because the country's heading in a terrible direction. The economy is out of control, and our political system is fractured and broken. And as long as somebody wants to work on behalf of the country at the county level, and that the Constitution is the bedrock of the principles that they are working for, I'll work with anybody. And I mean that. The only way the country will fix itself is at the county and municipal level, when Americans realize that Americans are Americans, and the institutions that have come under fire by the George Soros-controlled media are the very institutions that protect what makes our Constitution and our way of life great. And I myself am proud to be an American and think this is an exceptional country. And a place like Delta County is an exceptional place, even though it faces challenges. It's how you meet the challenges that determines what kind of life you live. And so I'm not going to sit like a little cherub with my mouth open and wait for the eagle to drop some, money or food in my mouth every month. There's a social safety network for people who seriously need it, and I support it. I used to be on it. But the American dream told me to work myself off of it, and now I pay more in taxes every year than I ever took from it, so somebody else can have a chance on the social safety network to help them. It's when you think that the government owes you, that there's a problem, or that you want to, as a government official, whore yourself to control the vote. That's when the American way of life is under fire. My name is Dave Moyle. This is paid for by the committee to re-elect Dave Moyle County Commissioner, and I approve this message.